What's up guys, Mr. E here. If you didn't catch my most recent video talking about the trailer and just how let down I felt by it, this basically is the second part of that video wherein I get into the thing that actually made me realize that this class has some hope. That this class is going to be pretty cool, and I think there's a lot of players who are probably feeling very underwhelmed by the trailer. I mean, the most positive comment that I saw was, and the crowd goes mild, which is exactly how I felt when I first saw the damn thing. I was like, ooh, okay. I mean, that's all they're going to show. But then I saw this dev blog we're going over today, and this is where the juicy stuff is, guys. This is where all the hype comes from for the class, because there are some genuinely very interesting ideas in here. And I think if more people see this, they will understand that this class is not a derivative of Veteran. This class is not a derivative of Zealot. This class is its own thing, and they endeavored very hard to make it its own identity outside of the other classes. Plus, it has some very interesting mechanics that are like, just completely new gimmicks to the game that I am dying to get my hands on and see what they're like. But of course, I'll get back to you whenever I can about how those actually function in game. But let's go ahead and dive into this dev blog. You can find this on the Steam homepage if you want to read along with me, but I'll be reading the whole thing to you and summarizing the points here so that we can understand better what this class has for its blitzes abilities, etc., etc. Okay, so we're going to skip down, and we're going to start with class design, because that's what we're here to talk about today. So first of all, the general design for the class, and I'm going to do some summarization here so I don't have to read every single line. So basically, they looked at the way that current classes are designed and what sort of niche, what sort of combat niche they filled. And the first thing they looked at was what areas, what physical placement do our characters currently occupy when they're fighting enemies. And as they sort of state here, they have a lot of classes that this is their enemy that fight in this area here, that are melee fighters. So this is the Zealot, the Ogren, and the Arbites are all in here fighting. Then you zoom out a bit, and you've got the characters who are ranged that stand back here and attack in with, like, so Psyker and Veteran generally. And this gap right here, this is unoccupied currently. There is a whole host of weapons in the game that have buffs, like the braced autoguns and the infantry autoguns. They have buffs to close range damage. But any class that can use those guns that could stand here and attack this enemy, well, almost every single one of these classes that could stand there and attack that enemy with a gun would be better served to be playing long range with that gun or to change to melee and go into melee. But this character has been designed with this zone in mind, with hovering in this zone and using ranged weapons to just to plink the enemies down with close ranged weapon damage increases. And there's other stuff they can do too, but this was the archetype that they were based around, and I was very pleased to see that this was one of the things that I specifically called out when I started hypothesizing about the Ganger, because this is one of the only unoccupied niches in the game right now. They could do another magic caster. I think that wouldn't have a whole lot of overlap, but in terms of like just strictly like melee and ranged fighters, it would be stepping on someone else's toes to have another melee or another pure ranged gunners. You're just going to be the Veteran, or you're just going to be somebody else here. But this right here is something entirely different. So I was very pleased to see that that came to fruition. But that's what they said. That was the initial core idea. You're going to be very mobile with an aggressive style that emphasizes dodging and maintaining the offensive as you dance in and out of attacks while showering the enemies in a hail of bullets or blows. So we are a sustained DPS, sort of float like a butterfly, sting like bee DPSer. Now, we get to this class's unique damage over time effect called Chem Toxin. It's a new mechanic coming to Darktide, similar to Burn or Bleed. It's its own damage over time, and you can apply it through some of your unique weapons, which I would have to imagine means the Needler range weapon. Perhaps it can also be on those shivs that are in your melee slots, or one of the blitzes, which is going to be there's a Pox gas grenade. I was talking to Tanner about this just prior to this, and I think both of us expressed some concern that it is just going to be another damage over time effect. Damage over time effects in this game are exceedingly strong because you just have to apply them and then just, keep away from the enemies until they die. I'm really hoping that this damage over time effect has something unique, that it just isn't a reflavored or recolored bleed, that it's not just a green version of bleed. But we'll see when it comes out. Then we've got the mechanic that I am the most hyped for, the most excited to see, which is the Stim Lab, the Cartel Special. Basically what this is every time you gain a talent tree point, you gain 1 point to spend in the stim lab, and you pick different bonuses to add to your cartel special. And if you choose to make a stim through the stim lab, you start the mission with this stim in your 4 slot, in your stim slot, and you can't use stims in the mission. So no red, yellow, green, or blue stims for you. You have to use your custom stim only. But it doesn't say that other players can't use it on you. So you could probably still get injected with the green stim by another player. You just couldn't pick it up and use it yourself because your slot is full. And this stim regenerates itself, but the cooldown is dependent on how many points you've allocated to it. So here's what I'm envisioning for this. This is completely speculative, right? But I don't think this is going to be a talent tree, like a full talent tree web. I think that would be absurd to have 2 talent trees for it. I think instead what it's going to be is there's going to be like 5 different types of juice. Why? I can't numbers. 1, 2, 5, I guess, guys. I think there's going to be like 5 different types of juice. You're going to have your little stim here that's like ready to be filled up. Your little stim vial's ready to be filled up. And then there's like your dispensers up here, right? And each point that you get, you can do 1 pump on one of these dispensers. So you could come in with 30 points and go on 1 and fill this sucker up with 1 juice and have it be like maybe this is like attack speed juice. Let's say it's attack speed. And this one is attack damage. And this one is damage reduction, right? So you could do 30 pumps of this one and get a stim that is going to give you a huge boost to attack speed. Or you could do 10 pumps on this one and 10 pumps on this one and 10 pumps on this one and get a little bit of an even blend. But the other mechanic that's coming in with this is that using less pumps overall, having a stim that is only, say, like 5 out of 30 points invested, it'll have much less magnitude of effect, but the cooldown will be much shorter. So I think there is a very cool sort of mechanic at play here where you can get a more potent effect with a longer cooldown and a shorter cooldown with less potent effect. But if you can massage this just right, you can get the absolute perfect ideal effect that will complement your abilities and coincide with their cooldowns. Because anybody who has played, you know, a DPS character in World of Warcraft or really any other MMO, you probably understand like snapshotting and aligning your cooldown windows. Cooldowns, and especially DPS cooldowns, have more impact when they are multiplying off of each other. So if you can get a stim that's going to be active when your ultimate is active, you'll get increased effects out of that if you can swing it like that. So this is going to be its own whole thing, and I don't know what the effects on these things are, but I am very, very interested and curious to see exactly what can be brewed up in this stim lab. So that's super cool. You can also not choose anything and use normal stims like the other classes. I think that very few people are going to be doing this, but that should let you know that the power level is going to be somewhere on that level, right? And green stims, actually, honestly, all of the stims that we currently have are very powerful effects. So if this character can just bring one for free that is on a cooldown, that's kind of crazy. Okay, now we get on to the 3 archetypes, guys. So this is where it gets quite involved. This is where we are going to talk about what this class can actually do, the things that should have actually been in the actual trailer, because this is way more impressive and gives way more hope for what the class actually is going to be. So we've got 3 archetypes, right? Left, right, and middle trees that you could, of course, can cross over between them. And the first one is called, they're calling it colloquially, the Gunslinger. The Gunslinger is the main archetype. This is like the, you know, if they did, when they designed this class first off, and they did that, like, oh, this is going to be the ranged but close range dodgy attacker, that's what this archetype is all around. And this one is very, very cool. This is the one that I really want to play with the most. So this one is on all about overwhelming close range firepower and nimble dodging, a true run and gun playstyle. The talents that they're showcasing here, they showcase 2 talents: increase range damage at close range, which is further increased for a short while after reloading; dramatically increase sprint dodge angle and can sprint dodge even without stamina, so staying super mobile here, and getting boosted close range damage. Then we've got our Coherency Aura Gunslinger. When an ammo pickup is collected by you or your allies in Coherency, everyone else in Coherency also replenishes a small amount of ammo. So we finally got another ammo generation aura in the game, which means that veterans don't have to be brought in every single composition where you are using guns. Now, especially if you're using lots of guns, you'll probably want both of these classes, right? Because you've got the veteran who is one of the best gun users and is going to be using a lot of ammo, and this class and that class together will keep your ammo reserves topped off nice and juicy. So I'm liking that. Then I really love this blitz, the Blinder. An extremely quick to throw blinding grenade which staggers enemies. This enables the Hive Scum to close the gap. Basically, it's a pocket sand, right? You use the pocket sand to disorient enemies, and then you can do whatever you want. And this comes out, as I say, really fast. You can throw it mid-combo while swinging your melee weapon. And you can recover these by killing enemies. So this is like Zealot knives, but it is pocket sand. How many times have you, a humble, melee fighter, been going in to kill some enemies, and you go in to kill a Reaper, and you're like, okay, this Reaper's gonna get stunned on the first hit and stop shooting me, right? And then he just doesn't, and then he murders you to death. Bullshit, right? This is the counter to that. You're going in on a pack of enemies, you throw pocket sand at them. Now they are stunned. Now you get to do free DPS and you get the cooldowns back. I would have to imagine it's by killing elite enemies, just like it is when it is for the knives on Zealot. We'll have to find out and see later on, but this is going to be the meta. I'm calling it right now. I think this is absolutely going to be the meta pick because this is infinitely generated and it is going to stop enemies in their tracks. It guarantees a stagger, right? It says it staggers enemies. So it guarantees a stagger on enemies, which is incredibly impactful. Being able to break enemies out of their animations in a flash like that is going to save lives all the time, and using this is not limited by charges, so awesome. Then the base combat ability, Desperado. Immediately swap to and reload your ranged weapon, entering Desperado for a few seconds. During Desperado, the Hive Scum is immune to ranged attacks, sprinting costs no stamina, and reloading does not reduce your ammo reserve. Okay, so when is Point Blank Barrage getting a rework is what I want to say here, because this is what we would want Point Blank Barrage to be. But Point Blank Barrage is dog water, and this is godly. This is literally insane. You are immune to range attacks while this is going on. So you can just not even give a fuck about 95% of enemies. You just only have to care about the melee enemies that are trying to close the gap on you. Sprinting costs no stamina. So if there's any stamina costing sort of things, that you would normally do, then you don't have to worry about that, right? So you're just gonna have infinite stamina, and reloading does not reduce your ammo reserve. So basically infinite ammo, except for you still have to reload. But remember that up here, this talent right here, you get extra damage after reloading. So you'll have your Uzis, you'll spray a magazine, you'll reload, and it's free. It's all free ammo as long as this is going on. Of course this ability probably only has a pretty short duration, right? Oh, close range kills extend the duration of Desperado. So if you play really, really well and play really, really aggressively with this, you can just spray enemies forever with bullets. This, honestly, to me, not only sounds really fun, it sounds like it might be actually insanely broken. It depends. It all comes down to whether or not this class is the way to deal with armor. Because if this class cannot hurt Carapace with any of its guns at all, say for instance that it has the Uzis and it has auto guns that are its choices. None of those guns can hurt armor in any way, shape, or form. Therefore, the first crusher you run into with this, you're dead in the water. But if, say for instance, Toxin, the new damage over time effect, does true damage to armored enemies, then we're back in business. So that's what it all comes down to. Then finally, the Keystone, Vulture's Mark. Killing specials or elites with ranged weapons gives you a stack of Vulture's Mark, which improves range damage, range critical strike chance, and movement speed. At max stacks, range special and elite kills restore toughness for you and allies in Coherency. So yeah, just hunting down and killing. This is going to be way better in higher difficulties, obviously, because it's going to be max stacked almost all the time. This is going to be a way to sustain your toughness, and yeah, pretty good stuff. Okay. So cool ranged attacker tree. Then we have the Ruffian tree, which is basically Barden Gorikson Slayer version, right? For those who want to lead a bit away from range focus and feel more like the guy who sends the cartel to convince those who don't cooperate, we go all in on aggression, relying on mobility and dodging to survive. So we are nimble, which gives you longer and longer lasting dodges, and hyper violence, which gives you increased melee damage based on amount of overkill damage when you get a melee kill. We then have our Coherency Aura, which is called Ruffian, which is literally just the Ogren's what is it, Headbreaker or Skull, whatever the aura is. It just gives 10% melee damage for Ogryns. I don't know if this is going to change at all prior to post, but it seems weird that it's the same as the Ogryn. Then the Blitz here, which a lot of people seem to be very jazzed about, a high-powered missile launcher. When you really want something dead, they were saying in the teaser or in the post that this can actually like blow up bosses. So what I'm thinking, like, you know how like the Ogryn's got his you know, big boom, what is it called? Like the big bomb, whatever that thing is, the Ogryn frag bomb. This is that, but single target, right? So you just got an RPG 7 strapped to your back, and you see a boss, and you're like, and you blast him in the face. So that's actually kind of sick, honestly. Hopefully, it is really powerful. This could be really, really cool if it is very powerful. Combat ability, Rampage. This is a rage ability, so it's just, again, Bard and Gorikson rage. You get vastly increased melee attack power, attack speed, damage reduction, and become immune to stuns and suppression, all which are massive for melee attackers, obviously. And melee attacks extend the duration of Rampage, although this effect is diminished for after 30 seconds. So this ability, they are expecting you to last for at least 30 seconds in it, which is crazy. But when you get out of this, you are exhausted and vulnerable while you recover. Like, you like drain yourself from doing it. So basically what I'm imagining here is, if you've ever played, I wanted to say World of Warcraft, but it's actually Dungeons and Dragons. If you've ever played Dungeons and Dragons, there is, of course, the Barbarian. The Barbarian has rage, and I forget which archetype of Barbarian that the rage, when it subsides, you actually take like fatigue, basically, because you like rage too much and then you take fatigue. This is what that is. So you need to like, you know, go rage, you go hardcore, and then you need to be in kind of a vulnerable position, because you're not going to be able to dodge or block. You're going to be basically in the stun state or the staggered state for a few seconds afterwards. So very cool, and like, you know, players want that aggressive constant damage playstyle. I think that's one of my main complaints about the Zealot, is the Zealot's playstyles are very like assassin, like single big boom, I kill you with that attack focused. I like rapid attackers that melt enemies with consistent DPS, and this is what that sounds like. So if it's just like Barden with dual axes, which you can dual wield cleavers and daggers here, could be pretty cool. All right, and then finally, the keystone here is Adrenaline Frenzy, a very aggressive keystone that encourages relentless brawling. Melee hits grant stacks of adrenaline, which are lost over time when not attacking, and max stacks lose all stacks and gain Adrenaline Frenzy, increasing attack speed and melee damage for a few seconds. So you're like meleeing, staying in the fight until eventually you build up enough adrenaline that you get this big boost of attack speed and melee damage, and then you got to build it up again. So you got to like time your ultimates around that so you get maximum effect. Okay, and finally we are on to that right side branch, the Chemist branch. This one is also seems like really cool, but this is one that seems a lot more complex in terms of the way that these abilities are going to interact. I definitely need to get hands on before I make any judgment about whether this is actually good, but it does have me quite intrigued. So this is all about the stims, the custom stims, and the toxin effects that are available on the weapons and the abilities of this class. And so we can get talents like Blessed Stims. While stim killing blows clears some corruption, or targeted toxin. Enemies infected with your chem toxin deal less damage, increased effect on monsters. So those are kind of cool. Our coherency aura here is Anarchist, which is literally just the Psyker aura that gives you, hopefully it gives about 5% extra crit. I guess at a certain point, when you have 6 classes that each have 3 auras, you are going to have some overlap, right? It makes sense to have more stats like this that do stack. Like, crit is a thing that a lot of classes want, and so I could see this being just like nice to have a crit stacking composition where you've got like your Zealot, you've got your Psyker, you've got your Scum, so all that could like work together for 20% extra crit, which would be pretty cool. Then for our Blitz here, it is the Chem Grenade. The Chem Grenade is basically a pox bomb that you throw out, and this is going to be like a slightly different version of the fire grenade that the Zealot has. The fire grenade for the Zealot, the enemies have to be standing directly in the fire, and they take that damage while they stand in the fire, but not a second after they leave it. This instead, when enemies walk through it and spend time in it, it builds up dot stacks on them. So even if they walk through it, if you can hold them there for a while and then they get out of it or the effect fades, they'll still have to take the damage from those stacks. So this will be a really easy way to spread a ton of like effects like this. If there's more effects like this that you know, debuff enemies or buff you when there's multiple enemies that are poisoned or whatever, that could be pretty cool. Then we've got the combat ability here called Stim Supply, and this one I am very, very interested to try out. The Hive Scum has this ability where you drop your medical crate, and this is a custom, this is the ability, it's a cooldown medical crate, and it grants nearby allies the effect of your special stim. So what this means is, like, if you've cooked up like a crazy potent stim that has a really long cooldown, as per the rules that we established earlier with this whole system here, oh, I deleted it, but like that whole system there, then when you drop this crate, it's going to give everybody that massive boost, but you can't use it that many times in the rest of the mission. So there's a reason to use one of these super long cooldown stims, because this ability will allow you to apply it to everybody. And who knows what these abilities are, whether they're like healing or replenishing a percentage of people's cooldowns or giving like some sort of like toughness, or who knows what it could be, right? There's a lot of things they could be doing with these stims. Very cool that this is the first genuinely support ability in the game. Like, this is just support. It doesn't like, you know, it doesn't like block bosses or anything. It's just gonna buff your allies and perhaps heal or like cleanse your allies. Pretty cool. Then we've got the keystone here, which is called Chemical Dependency, which I think is what everyone wanted to meme on, just becoming a meth addict here. While the stim lab allows you to craft a perfect stim to suit your playstyle, this keystone is not so much about the perfect stim, but taking as many stims as you can as fast as you can. So using a stim, cartel special or otherwise, grants a stack of dependency for a long duration. Each stack grants ability cooldown up to a limit. So you're just gonna like stab yourself with a million syringes, and it's gonna give you more ability cooldown so that you can use more ults. And that sounds pretty cool, right? So we wanna be juicing up. I could see a build where, and as I say here, there's gonna be a build that uses one of these non-stim based ultimates, like the Ruffian's like hyper violence, or this one up here, Gunslinger, or sorry, it's called Desperado, right? That uses this just to get the cooldown reduction, but then you also want that stim to be as potent as possible while still maxing out your cooldown reduction and keeping it maxed out forever. So this all comes down to the numbers, but I like this. I think these are very interesting ideas, and this is what I want to say in closing, because that's all of it for today, guys. What we see here is so much different. This paints such a better picture of this class than the garbage trailer does, and I really wish more people would see this. Hopefully this video can reach enough of you guys' eyes that you will be, you know, at least have some life breathed into you if you were just completely being a doomer about this class being bunk. I think there's a lot of very interesting, cool things to see here. And, you know, either way, whether it sucks or whether it's good, I'm going to be bringing it to you. I'm going to be showing you builds and talking about how this class is the worst in the game or the best in the game or whatever it is. And I'll see you soon. So thanks for watching, guys. Talk to you next time. Bye-bye.